Here are 3 techniques to get you from the red to green. Even if you are familiar with TDD, probably you are only aware of one of them. And that one may lead you to think that the red-green refactoring is just a waste of time. Let's use a simple example like the multiplication just to show those 3 techniques so you can understand the difference between all of them. The first technique is the fake it technique, also known as fake it until you make it. And how do you do it? So let's start by create our code. We are writing our test. And now we start that process of daydreaming of what the solution will be. I can imagine something like this, a static class calculator with a static method multiply that will receive 2 ints. For example, I can provide 2 and 3, and I expect an int as the result. First step is make this thing compile. So let's just generate this code. Create static class, calculator, and also create the multiply method. Give here proper naming. And now let me move this class to a different file, okay, and put them side by side. Okay. On the right side, you can see the test undercode. On the left side, you can see my test. What do I want to do now? I want to do my assertion. So result.should, in case you are asking, I'm using Fluent assertions, and should be 2 times 3, it means 6, is this that I want. So let's run the test to see what happens. The test is failing due to the exception that I'm throwing here, so now let's start the process of faking until we make it. If we know that 6 will fix this thing, let's just return the 6. And when you run it, you have a green test. So the next step in the fake it until you make it is that you are now in a green state and you start refactoring this code to find the final solution. So in this case, you have this 6 on the test, but also the 6 on the code under test. So what can we do next? We want to avoid this 6, right? So let me just call up the tests. And now please be brave and stay with me because this will sound really stupid, but we are talking about the multiplication. So it's normal that you will feel that this is really stupid. But the process is exactly this one. Since we want to avoid that duplication, what you can do is that you know that 2 times 3 will return 6, right? So that is the next obvious step that you can do, is just replace this by 2 times 3. You run the tests again, and what you want is that the result will be green once again. Perfect, so you can keep iterating on this. Now you have moved the duplication from the return 6 to the 2 parameters. So what you do now is that you will keep faking one of them, but you swap the other one by the correct implementation. So you come here and, for example, change this one by the B, you run the tests, and as you can see, you have a green one. Now you swap the 2 by the A, you run the tests, and it's green once again. So the process of faking until you make it is basically this. You start by the most dumbest thing that you can do to fulfill that assertion, and then you start swapping things slowly, one at a time, until you find the solution, okay? If you are feeling that this one seems stupid, you will like the next one, because it's the one that usually no one tells you that you can do on TDD. The next technique is basically doing the obvious implementation. This to me is basically the pragmatic approach and is the one that I often use, and I see a lot of people looking into that like if it was not TDD at all. But in fact it is. You can find it even on the TDD by example book by Kent Beck. So let me show you what does that mean. Imagine once again the same case, okay? We have the multiplication 2 by 3. Now we have result should be 6. And I just revert the code here until the moment that we have the throw not implemented exception. So we don't go through that code generation that you have seen me doing. So what we can do now, we know that this is 2 times 3. It's a multiply. We are not stupid, right? So we are developers, and multiplication is something that should be easy. So if it's easy, why we don't do this right away and run the tests and they should be green? Voila! TDD doesn't mean that you need to do always the stupid thing. You just go to techniques like the fake it until you make it when you are not confident on the result, when it's not obvious to you what you should do. You need to mix and match these techniques that I'm showing you. And you will find interesting the next one. The next technique is Triangulate. This one comes from the idea of radar triangulation, where you can use two radars to find the position of a third device, let's say, just by the observation of the signals on those two radars. So it's an observation that is indirect instead of measuring exactly that third thing that you are looking for. And we can apply the same principle to tests. So let's see what does that mean in TDD. I just changed the code slightly. Once again, I revert the implementation to the throw new not implemented exception. And on the left side, you have my test. And what I've done is that instead of providing here the 2 and the 3 and the 6 as the result, I just changed my code. I'm using xunit, so I changed the fact to a theory, and I'm using inline data just to provide the 2, the 3, and the 6. Okay, so what can we do now? And by the way, why I'm doing this inline data? Simple reason, because to triangulate, we'll need multiple tests. And this is a simple way of doing multiple tests with xunit. So let's just implement first the simplest solution. What we know is that if we provide a 6, this will be a success. So it just returns a 6. We run the tests and they succeed. So perfect. So let's keep moving on. On this case, what we can do now is that we can provide a new set of data just to help us out to find that position as we said. So let's say that we change only this first parameter, right, to 1. So now what we expect that this one should be a 3. And when we run again, we have one test succeeding and the other one failing. So now we can start all those crazy things as you know, like for example, if this one is a given number, we return a different number, all those kind of things. So with just 2 test cases, I can start thinking, what can I do to achieve that result that I'm looking for? And for example, one interesting thing is that I can do something as simple as this. For now, I can multiply the A by 3, because in one of the cases I'm receiving a 2 and I'm returning 6, and the other one I'm receiving a 1 and I'm returning 6. So maybe this is the solution, and you run the tests and they succeed. And now, for example, you can bring another option, and this time we change the second argument. So now when we run the tests, we will have one failing. So what we can conclude now is that by triangulating those 3 test scenarios, the solution should fulfill those 3 conditions. So on this case, it's clear to me that A times B would be the solution. We run all the tests and they succeed. Are you familiar with these 3 techniques? Let me know which one do you use. Leave a comment down below. If you are into test-driven development, I bet that you will like this video that I have for you. I will see you soon, and in the meanwhile, just keep things simple.